What's happening? Thanks for joining me as always on this Thursday morning. We'll get into the Patriots in just a couple of minutes. Quick note, though, Celtics just announced that Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss the next 5 to 6 months. So pretty much do not anticipate Porzingis being a part of the Celtics team next year until about January. So Porzingis out 5 to 6 months. Significant news from the Celtics. We all knew he was hurt. We all knew he was going to get surgery. We also knew he was going to miss some time. But now we know 5 to 6 months recovery. Porzingis out until, I would guess, at least until January. Also want to let you know tonight from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock, I will be on 98.5 The Sports Hub, hosting solo, doing headlines. Swing on by and say hello. All right, let's start with the Patriots. We talked about the offensive line yesterday and how an offensive line guru was not necessarily throwing bouquets at the offensive line of the Pats. And part of the issue that we're trying to figure out here is what's going on with Mike Onwenu. Is Mike Onwenu going to play guard? Is he going to play tackle? He signed as a tackle. He talked about specifically training for tackle this offseason. Elliott Wolf went out there and said that they signed the best free agent tackle that was available. So all signs pointed towards Mike Onwenu playing tackle. Then we got to mandatory minicamp, and all of a sudden he was playing guard. What's going on? Is he going to stay at guard? Have the Patriots changed their minds about Onwenu? Well, my buddy Greg Bedard wrote at BSJ yesterday something very interesting about Onwenu. Here's what Bedard wrote. Onwenu, and this was a surprise to me as well, is actually one of the biggest question marks on the line. Despite talking about training for tackle in the offseason, he did not appear to report slimmed down and more athletic. In fact, he looked bigger. Of course, Bedard writes, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong about that. Then we get to the true meat of the issue here. Two team sources told Bedard that there have been concerns since before Onwenu was drafted that Onwenu does not love football. I'll repeat, two sources told Bedard that going back to before Onwenu getting drafted, there were concerns about Big Mike not loving football. Bedard writes, if that is in fact true, and I'm not telling you it is, that will only be exacerbated by the extension. Quote, I'm telling you that contract is not going to age well, unquote, said one of the sources. Bedard weighed in with his 2 cents on Onwenu. If Onwenu dropped about 30 pounds and looked fantastic this offseason, I don't think there's a chance in hell they would have moved him. You need to have one tackle spot locked down. It really doesn't matter which one. So two sources spoke with Bedard, and they say that the question, one of the biggest questions about Mike Onwenu before he was drafted, was whether or not he loved football. That would help explain why he dropped so deep down into the draft, right? If there were questions by teams, if there was a red flag there, if scouts and coaches were wondering if this guy truly loves the sport, would he be committed to it? Maybe that's part of the reason why he fell. Now, this is two sources. Interestingly enough, both of these sources are from the Patriots. These are team sources saying that before the draft, there were concerns about Onwenu not loving football. Is that why he's playing guard? Is that why he was moved back? Did the Patriots expect Onwenu to lose some weight, get into better shape, be a little bit more athletic, and fit better at tackle than what he showed up looking like and playing like? And did they have to make that swap by sending him back to guard because he was too big and not athletic enough? The first question when I read this that popped into my mind is, why is this leaking now? Onwenu was drafted in 2020. We're talking more than 4 years ago Onwenu was drafted. Why all of a sudden now, in late June of 2024, is this being leaked? Why all of a sudden are team sources talking about Mike Onwenu maybe not loving football? We hadn't heard about this at all throughout the entirety of Bill Belichick's tenure. We didn't hear any of this through the 4 years of Onwenu playing. We didn't hear about this when Onwenu was out at times, a little dinged up. Why are we hearing this now? What's going on with that? What is the motive of these team sources speaking to Bedard? Why all of a sudden do we have Patriots sources questioning the love of football from Onwenu when this has gone silent throughout his entire career here? That's the first question. I don't know the answer to that. I can take a stab. Is this possibly the team trying to motivate Onwenu? Are they trying to get him into shape? Are they frustrated by the shape he showed up in? Is this a way to leak the information to try to force Onwenu, almost to embarrass him, to push him, to motivate him to lose that weight that they want him to lose? Because they know in his current shape, he's not going to play tackle, and they want him to play tackle. You don't draft Layden Robinson if you think Onwenu's playing guard, do you? I'm not sold that they draft Robinson in the 4th round if they believe Onwenu is going to just go back to guard. This entire offseason, they were selling us that Mike Onwenu was going to be a tackle. Onwenu talked about it. Mayo talked about it. Wolf talked about it. Everybody talked about it. That was the plan. So was this a 23rd hour change right before minicamp because Onwenu showed up out of shape? And this is the team's way to try to push him, to try to wake him up, because now he's paid. So there's only so many ways you can try to motivate the guy, right? I mean, you already gave him the bank. You can't hold the contract over his head. You don't have that leverage. So is this almost a desperate attempt by these Patriots sources to try to motivate, to try to build a chip on Onwenu's shoulder so he shows up in training camp a month from now in the kind of shape they thought he would show up in when they gave him that contract? Here's another option, because we don't know why this was leaked. It could be to motivate Onwenu. It also could be that these two team sources did not agree giving Onwenu that extension. And maybe this is their way to throw it out there. We didn't love the extension in the first place. Now this guy shows up. He didn't lose any weight. He didn't get ready to play tackle. We told you so, Elliott. We told you, Gerard. I think that's a possibility. I think we have to at least entertain that idea that these two sources were not in love with the idea of extending Onwenu. So now they're starting to leak out the information and trying to justify their thought process as to why it was not a good contract. Maybe, just maybe. Here's another option. Is this just the Patriots trying to let the Patriots fan base know, no, you see, we did want to play Onwenu at right tackle. We had the plan. We had the plan. We wanted him to be the tackle, but then we had to change course because he showed up out of shape. Is this, in essence, justifying the move by the coaching staff, quickly moving Onwenu from tackle to guard? That could also be an option. Again, we don't know. We don't know why these two sources decided to speak to Bedard. Obviously, Bedard reached out and asked these questions, and maybe if somebody asked these questions 2 years ago, this stuff would have come out. But usually, as we saw this year, Bedard does reach out to scouts and coaches and all of that during draft time to get a report on these players. And we had not heard anything about Onwenu not loving football back then. So why now? It could be motivation. It could be guys defending the fact that they did not want to extend Onwenu and they're, wagging their finger at Elliott Wolf and the rest of the staff. It could be this coaching staff trying to justify the move and trying to explain to fans why this guy was supposed to be the right tackle and now might go back to being right guard. $5 super chat from my guy JB. Greetings from Vegas. Oh, say hello to Vegas for me, JB. It's been about a year since I've been in Vegas. This feels like a get your butt in shape leak for sure. Gave dude a lot of money. Hope he doesn't get lazy. Yes. JB, out of the three options that I threw out there, the reason why my number one option as to why this would leak being motivation is because of what you just super chatted. I do feel like that's what's going on. I do feel like the Patriots, they trusted Onwenu. They gave him this big fat contract extension. They had the plan of right tackle. They talked to Onwenu about moving to tackle. Onwenu sold them on the idea that he could play tackle, that he was going to get into better shape. He was going to show up slightly more athletic. And then all of a sudden, he shows up at OTAs, and he's not in that kind of shape. And then he's at minicamp, and he's not in that kind of shape. And he's not any more athletic than he was when he left last year. Now, of course, you could argue that he played tackle last year, and he was good enough at that weight. So maybe he's even put on a couple pounds. But this does feel like a motivational tactic by a couple of people within the Patriots organization to try to get Onwenu going, that they have some concerns that he's not in shape. All right, before I continue on this, don't forget to give us that thumbs up, like the podcast. That's how we grow this community. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget to comment. And especially if you like what we do, love what we do, subscribe to the channel. We're going Patriots only starting on July 8th, that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Your Patriots podcast right here with the Nick Cattle Show. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Spotify, Apple Pods. It's hard for me to believe that Elliot Wolf did not know, right? That Elliot Wolf wasn't sure that, he wasn't thinking about this idea that Onwenu doesn't love football. He had to know. I mean, if two people in the facility know that Onwenu might not love football and it goes back to before he was drafted, then Elliot Wolf would know that. Elliot Wolf was on the staff in 2020. Elliot Wolf's been here for the last 4 years. I can't imagine that Elliot Wolf just had his head underneath some kind of rock and didn't know that that there were some concerns about this. I'm sure he read the scouting reports. I'm sure he has watched Onwenu. I'm sure he had plenty of conversations in that building about Onwenu. Elliot Wolf had to know that this was at least a concern. Had to. He's been there too long. I mean, unless he just did not do his homework, which is very tough to imagine. He has to know Onwenu as a player. He has to know the good and bad about Onwenu. He has to know all of the background. It begs the question, this leak comes out, it does beg the question. We heard about consensus, and we heard about, people cooperating with each other in this new era, right? That it was going to be an inclusive environment when making decisions. Was there a consensus built? Was there a collaboration that led to a consensus on the Onwenu contract? Or in this case, the collaboration did not result in a consensus, and Elliot Wolf, maybe Gerard Mayo, they just decided to make the decision, pulled the trigger, and bring Onwenu back on this extension. Was there a true consensus within this organization that Onwenu was the right move, that extension was the right decision? These leaks make me wonder. I also wonder if that decision to give Onwenu the extension was based off of the concern already that the Patriots had on this offensive line. Maybe they looked at this and they knew the risks. They understood that Onwenu was a risk. They understood that he might not show up in the best shape. But they also understood that they lost Trent Brown and that they did not want Trent Brown back because obviously, they thought that Brown was not necessarily with the program, that he was not the hardest working guy, that they wanted to change the culture. So they knew that Brown was going to be out. They also knew about Cole Strange's injury, the torn patellar. So maybe they felt like they had to keep Onwenu, even if there were some questions, and maybe they crossed their fingers a little bit. Hey, we got a ton of cap space, but Brown is gone. Strange is not going to be here. We don't know what's going to happen draft time. We've got to keep at least one anchor along with David Andrews. And you could also say maybe City So, but we've got to keep Onwenu because the rest of this offensive line is so damn rocky, we can't afford for him to leave. And Onwenu had the Patriots over the barrel. And the Patriots had to make that move, even though there might have been some hesitation. Did the Patriots just anticipate that he would show up in shape? Hey, you sign in March, you got 3 months to show up in shape. Did they think he was going to work, get his body right, and then show up to camp the way they were hoping it would show up to camp? And Onwenu, by the way, he has to work out. I don't even care if it's tackle or guard. He has to work out. With the extension that he got, with the rest of the offensive line, all these offensive line scenarios, Onwenu has to work out. Literally and figuratively. He's got to hit the treadmill, apparently, and he also has to work out for this team because you cannot go into this season with Onwenu being a question mark. As Bedard wrote, Onwenu is actually one of the biggest question marks on the line after speaking to the sources. That's not good. We thought there was at least two guys that were surefire. And that was David Andrews at center and Onwenu, either at tackle or guard. And you hope City So was the third one. If now we're concerned about Onwenu, if Onwenu shows up to training camp and he's in the same shape or even in worse shape and he's not moving around great and he's at right guard, now I got to be concerned about Onwenu? I hope the hell not. As we talked about with this O-line yesterday, there are already enough questions, let alone Onwenu being in shape. So let's hope that this is a motivational tactic. Onwenu picks up on it, and he decides to get moving a little bit, and we have a different-looking Onwenu by late July. Let's all hope. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Another issue with the Patriots we've talked about is wide receiver, and the Pats needing a wide receiver one. Amari Cooper is walking into his final year of a contract with the Cleveland Browns. And there was a TikTok video that surfaced over the last day or so. And Amari Cooper's going back and forth with this young man on the TikTok. And he says, I'm just trying to get paid. I'm trying to get paid. Now, the Browns have publicly said that they want to keep Cooper. But the reports that I've seen say that the Browns are only offering Cooper a one-year deal. They're not offering him more than a one-year contract extension, which begs the question. Will the Patriots pick up that phone? Have they already picked up that phone? Because I am 100% picking up the phone, and I am making that call to Cleveland to see if I can get Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper wants to get paid. The Browns say they want to keep him, but if they're unwilling to give him more than 1 year tacked onto the contract, Cooper's looking around. He's seeing all of these contracts signed by wide receivers, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Justin Jefferson. He's seen all these deals. Jalen Waddle. He's watching all of these contracts. He's reading the headlines. His agents are keeping him abreast of the situation. Amari Cooper, I'm sure, wants more than a 1 year contract extension. And so are they at an impasse? Do the Browns have issues here? Can they not get a deal done with Cooper? You're about a month away from training camp. If within the next couple of weeks the Browns are unable to hammer out a deal with Cooper, they could absolutely deal him somewhere. They have spent money at the wide receiver position this offseason. They have answers at wide receiver. And it seems like they're looking at Cooper and telling him, we like the idea of having you for, another year or so, but we're not going to overextend ourselves. The trade for Jerry Jeudy, they paid Jerry Jeudy. We talked about the Patriots, this idea of locker room pocket watchers. Guarantee you that the day Jerry Jeudy got his contract from Cleveland, Cooper was like, wait a minute. Am I not going to get paid? I got 1 year left on my deal. How about you take care of me? All I've done is play football for you guys, and I've been productive. Elliott Wolf should absolutely be on the phone making that call. Amari Cooper has experience with Alex Van Pelt, obviously, being in Cleveland. He understands the system, the scheme. He's a great fit for it. He has inside-outside versatility. He's somebody that can play the X for you. He can play the Z. You can move him all around. So he has that positional versatility that would help. That would help the Patriots. He is an exceptional route runner. Exceptional. He gets separation with the routes that he is capable of running. So you're talking about scheme fit. You're talking about versatility and the capability of filling that X receiver position that you're still looking for, hoping that Javon Baker gets healthy and he might be able to do it, but who really knows? I'm not taking anything with Tyquan Thornton. Give me a break with that. So you still need an X if Baker's not ready. And so you could play Cooper at the X. So he fits that need. And then you can mess around because then you have versatile parts, right? You can also play Jalen Polk every once in a while at the X, and you can move Cooper in. You can play Javon Baker at the X, and you can move Cooper in. And he's somebody, you don't have to catch him up. I mean, he shows up to Gillette Stadium, he's ready. He knows most of AVP's offense. I'm sure AVP is tinkering, and he's tweaked some things from his Cleveland days. But Cooper walks right in, and he knows. He knows precisely what to expect. He likely knows the verbiage or most of it. So you don't have to catch him up. He walks in at the beginning of July. He's got 3 weeks. He's ready to go. He's a veteran. He's a professional. So Elliot Wolf, pick up the phone. I'm picking up the phone right now. And I don't think, and maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but due to the fact that Cleveland is reportedly looking to just add 1 year to his deal, it seems to me that Cleveland does not believe that Cooper is a part of the long-term plan. And he shouldn't be, really. I mean, he just turned 30 years old. But that's actually good news for the Patriots, because you can now look at this and you could look at the cost. How much is it going to cost you to acquire a Cooper? I don't think a whole hell of a lot. He just turned 30. He's in the final year of his contract. You look back in 2022 when he was traded to Cleveland, it was for 5th and 6th round picks. And that's when he was, 27, 28 years old, in the middle of his prime, and he got dealt for 5th and 6th round picks. So what would it cost the Patriots? A 5th round pick in next year's draft? That's what I would think. I would absolutely, no doubt, deal a 5th round pick in next year's draft for Cooper. I wouldn't even hesitate. I wouldn't think twice. I might even trade a 4th round pick for Cooper. No, he's not going to be the answer for the next 3, 4, 5 years. But can he be that solid number one for you for the next 2 or 3 years? I think so. And that gives you more time to find that young wide receiver one. You've got the cap space to give Cooper the money. You've got the opportunity for Cooper to play a ton. He's a perfect fit. He's going to be great in that wide receiver room. He is an adult in the locker room. He's been highly productive. I mean, this guy is consistent. You want to talk about consistent? He's hit over 1,000 receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 years. He's had at least 5 touchdowns every year of his career. You can write down Amari Cooper for like 1,100, 1,200 yards, 70 catches, and 6 or 7 touchdowns. Would that not be great to add to this wide receiver room? Cooper would be your one. He ain't top 10, but he's a legit one. And now everybody else falls into line better, right? Now you have Cooper as your one, and then you can look at Jalen Polk as your 2, Kendrick Bourne as your 3 when he gets back, Javon Baker, hopefully maybe, Pop Douglas. And I'm more talking about, Pop obviously will be the 2 or the 3. I'm more thinking of, outside guys that can make plays, Z's and X's. Pop's the slot. He's going to produce. But if you're telling me Cooper, Polk, Pop Douglas, Bourne, and Javon Baker, that's a pretty good 5. That's a pretty good 5. See you later, Juju. Goodbye, Tyquan. Maybe you hold on to Kayshon Boutte if he continues to perform at training camp, and that ends up being your 6th guy, and he's your 5th guy if Bourne starts the season on the pup. But if you slide Cooper in as your 1, everything else falls into place for you at that position. So we talk about Brandon Aiyuk. And we talk about this idea that, would you deal for Aiyuk? And I've talked about there's no way on God's green earth I would give up a first-round pick for Aiyuk because that might be a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick next year. I'm not dealing that kind of pick for Aiyuk as much as I love Aiyuk. That's way too heavy of a price when you're in the middle of a rebuild. But would I give a 4th or 5th round pick up for Amari Cooper? Yes, please. He'd be my number one target right now, honestly. Out of all the guys we've talked about, because of cost, he buys you an extra couple of years to get the young number one that you want on a cheap contract. And now if you have Cooper, you're not worried about drafting a wide receiver in the first round next year. If you need a left tackle or a wide receiver, right? Right away, if you have a top 5, top 10 pick, you feel pretty good about your chances of landing a left tackle. And now you've got Drake May, left tackle, next year's draft, first-round pick, Amari Cooper. There is your future franchise quarterback, your future franchise left tackle, and a dependable, solid, really good wide receiver one. And then you can work on it. Maybe Jalen Polk becomes a number one. Maybe Javon Baker becomes a number one. But you have the insurance. You have the bridge, in essence, with somebody like Amari Cooper. So I'm keeping my eye on Cooper in Cleveland. They might get a deal done, and all of this might be forgotten by next week. That is certainly possible. They're talking. But if this continues to drag and the Browns continue to hold firm on giving Cooper just a 1-year extension, maybe Cooper starts to talk a little bit more, and we circle back to this by mid-July, and it could be an opportunity for the Patriots to steal a wide receiver one for the next couple of years. That would be fantastic. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget tonight, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., I'm on 98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm hosting solo and doing headlines. So a lot of me, I apologize for that. But I will be working at 98.5 tonight doing the night show for Joe Murray. I believe Joe is sliding up to the afternoon show for Jim Murray. So I'll be hosting solo tonight on 98.5. Just want to end with this. Celtics actually made a pick last night. They actually made a pick. And I was not sold that they would make this pick at 30 last night because it's going to cost this team upwards of $9 to $10 million due to the guaranteed contract, right? The guaranteed money in that deal. And you talk about the aprons and the tax penalties and all that stuff. Baylor Shireman, he's going to cost the Celtics about $9 to $10 million. And I wasn't so sure that they would do what they did last night, drafting a player. Now, I wanted Kyle Filipowski, and that was even before we found out today that Kristaps Porzingis will be out 5 to 6 months. I wanted Filipowski. He's that stretch big. He's a really good passer. He's got a savvy game. He can defend. And I heard from CBS last night that the Celtics, they were looking at 2 guys. They had 2 guys on their board that they really, 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 really liked. It was Filipowski and it was Shireman, and they went with Shireman over Filipowski. So I would have taken Filipowski, but that does not mean I don't like Shireman. I do like Shireman. I got to watch him at least a handful of times this year. I watch a lot of Big East basketball. He obviously plays Providence 2 times a year, so I saw him against Providence a couple of times. I've seen Shireman over the last, I'd say, 2 years, at least 7 or 8 times, at least. Watch him in the NCAA tournament. So I've seen a decent amount of him. And he's a really good offensive player. He's a great shooter. He can shoot off screens. He can shoot off handoffs. He has this behind the back step back move that he knocks threes down. So he's a very, very good shooter. Deep range, no issue with the range from college to the NBA. He's going to knock down 26-footers. He's got the range, no doubt. But he's not just a three-point guy. He hits floaters. He hits pull-ups. He has this turnaround midi that he loves. He's got some good touch in the restricted area. He can play pick and roll because he can handle the basketball. So he's got good enough handle. He's got good enough vision. He makes some really good pocket passes to big men rolling to the bucket. He makes good lob passes. So he's somebody that has more nuance to his game than he's a shooter. He gives you more than that. He's got a little playmaking ability, which makes him more versatile. Great rebounder, 9 rebounds a game. He's going to crash the defensive glass, which is great. My question is his defense. He is not a super athletic guy, and he's not great laterally. Now, do the Celtics think they can get him to play defense? I would guess so. I would imagine that they believe they can get Shireman to play at least good defense. But that's the question. If they get him to play average defense, good defense, then he's going to play in the NBA 10 to 12 years. And he is going to be an absolute contributor. No doubt about it. He's 23 years old. He's going to be 24 in September. So this was not a draft pick for the future. This was not drafting somebody like Jordan Walsh. Last year, they drafted Walsh in the second round. They knew Walsh might take 2 or 3 years if he works out. Shireman's a guy, he's a plug and play. You're not drafting a guy who's going to be 24 in September to sit him for 2-3 years. It's just, that's not going to happen. So they drafted somebody who can contribute right now. I would have gone with Filipowski, but I do think there's some things, I'll talk more about it tonight on 98.5. I do think there's some things lineup-wise that they can do with Shireman now in the mix that could help deal with the Porzingis minutes that you're going to miss up until January. Shout out to the Celtics, though. Wyc Grousbeck, never afraid to spend money. Drafting a guy at 30, going to cost him like $9-10 million when you think about the taxes and all that, and they still made the swing. So good for them. They know what they got. Coming back as NBA champions. They're not trying to, pinch every penny and worry about the budget. Now watch, they'll probably trade Shireman tonight. I don't think that's going to happen, but. So, good stuff. Good stuff by the C's last night. I like the pick. Not the guy I would have picked, but it doesn't mean I don't like the pick. I like the pick. So we'll see what happens. You get the second round of the draft later on today. We'll see what the Celtics decide to do. All right, I'm out of here. Back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Don't forget, tonight, 98.5 The Sports Hub, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Solo. I'm hosting. I'm doing headlines. Swing on by, say hello. We'll talk Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox. I've got Evan Lazar on the show tonight. I've got Brian Robb on the show tonight. So you don't want to miss it. Before you go, do us a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. I'll talk to you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. This has been The Nick Cattle Show.